All right, I guess we'll get started, everyone. I would like to call the Thursday, March 3rd school committee business meeting to order. Mrs. Kennedy, can you take the roll, please?
Mayor Wynn.
I am here.
Ms. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Walker.
Present.
Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Ms. Baldwin.
Here.
Mr. Lennon.
Here.
Mr. Cole.
Here.
All present.
Okay, can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. For welcome to all those of you tuning in at home. I would like to turn it over to our Vice Chair, Sarah Hall.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we'll be focusing exclusively on our aspirational budget presentations for the district. It will be broken down into 8 separate presentations. Starting off, there'll be 4 different departments, and then we'll go into the individual schools in the district. After each presentation, we'll pause and there'll be an opportunity for school committee members to ask questions. Following that, the superintendent will give us some summary remarks, and then we'll have public comment available for anyone who would like to comment on the aspirational budget. I think we are ready to begin.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Is this going through, or I have to project? I can't. People in the back hear me? Can you guys hear me back there?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Gangemi, can you hear me? Just want to make sure. All right, well, first of all, I just want to, before we get started, I just want to thank our central office team, our principals, leadership team, our school council, parents, students, and everybody that's been working so hard in developing our budget. And obviously, as we go through this budget and towards the end, there's always revisions, reallocating, and for us as a district, we, throughout this process, the next 6 weeks, we will continue to work hard behind the scenes, and then we'll be updating the school committee of where we're at before the public hearing on April 6th. So as we move forward, if you recall, our last budget, we talked about a foundational budget, basically taking what we have now and moving it into next year and what the costs would be. At the same time, tonight you're going to hear from our principals and budget holders how we're investing in reimagining our future tied to the current work that we're doing with the Portrait of a Graduate in our strategic planning. So tonight you'll hear from, as Ms. Hall said, from the district level presenters, along with the principal presentations right after that. Mr. Burkholm will not be here tonight. He ended up hurting his back, and he's going to be doing the capital improvement plan budget on Monday. So we put him on the IR so he could be ready for game day Monday night. So I'll take care of his slides coming up. So if you recall our last budget, when we did our presentation, the level service budget or foundational budget, this was the slide that we described throughout the presentation. And as you recall, with our revenue sources, choice, circuit breaker, entitlement grants, revolving accounts, ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, as we all described last time, those accounts are going to be depleted as we're moving into this budget season. So this is where we had the city allocations with the level service of a 3.8, but overall funding for that budget was a 1.3, where we utilized some of these funding sources for the schools. Remember, as we move forward, contractual settlements, right now we're in negotiations with 3 unions. We don't have those numbers, but we estimated cost for a 1% across the board is around $300,000. So that is something that as we go through our negotiations, working with the NTA, ASME, and our IA unions, we'll have more concrete numbers the closer we get to negotiations being complete. So tonight you're going to hear a little more details with our budget holders, also with the principals, the aspirational budget. And this kind of reflects our aspirational budget. As you can see, the city appropriations and once again, the school revenue sources. So this is the foundational, what we just said, the 3.8, and then the 1.3 overall. And you can see our revenue sources, some of them are down. As we talked about last time, circuit breaker is going to go up a little bit, and we're utilizing all of that funding. So you'll see tonight, adds to staff throughout the district is $760,000. Non-personnel costs, $250,000. So our aspirational budget changes around $1 million. City contribution, when you look at this, is around 89.2%, which the aspirational budget, city appropriations would be about a 6.8%, and then the overall budget increase, utilizing our school revenues, is around a 3.9% overall. Our first presentation, we're coming in. This is also from our last presentation we did. Overall, for the district, you can see, and this is what we say, our salaries is our biggest investment in this district, and that's our people, and that's our personnel. Once you break down the overall budget, you have fixed costs coming in about 5%, other costs at 9%, special education, non-salary 8%, and building and grounds at 6%. System budget holders, I'm gonna move forward. So you're on the presentations, you're gonna see central office staff and district budget holders present. So coming out of central office, this is the breakdown of our costs. So salaries is at 34%. Our fixed costs are at 17%. Other costs are at 17%. Special ed non-salary, 28%, and then building and grounds. And then all of our presenters will be presenting this throughout for each slide. So building and grounds, so this is Steve Burkholm's department. The budget areas that he is looking at or that he oversees: staff, custodians, and maintenance. All of our utilities, and as you know, with the crisis that's happening in the world right now, we do anticipate utilities going up next year and towards the end of this year. Supplies and materials, contracted services, those are all the testing, inspections, emergency repairs, building upgrades. District goals, everything ties back into our vision, support an educational goal for the district. Obviously, through COVID and Lauren McDonald, and before Lauren, Kathy Riccio, and our nursing staff, during COVID, making sure we're providing a healthy and safe facility. And Steve and the custodians were amazing doing that work too. Making sure we're maintaining our systems, and then making improvements to building and grounds and athletic fields ongoing. So one ask for Steve is an assistant groundskeeper. As we know, we have a great relationships with the Parks Department, and we do share staff in taking care of fields. We feel having an assistant groundskeeper right now with an estimated cost of $45,000 will allow us to maintain our fields in areas around the schools on a regular basis, and we're not gonna be sharing as much and stressing our Parks Department. So we see this as kind of a win-win for the city, and it will be very beneficial. Right now, we've had one groundskeeper over the past few years, and we're recognizing that one groundskeeper needs a lot more support. So what we've done in the past is utilize some of our maintenance workers to go out and try to assist. We've hired some summer help when the students come back for college. But really, for us, I think for the district and for Steve to maintain our athletic fields, having an assistant groundskeeper would be very beneficial. Steve will be presenting the capital improvement plan. This is not part of the capital improvement plan, but I think for school committee on Monday night, you'll get a good overview of the different capital projects that are listed in the capital improvement plan and ways we're looking to improve our building and grounds. And at this time, we call up Lauren McDonald for Health Services. Come on down.
Before we move on, were there any questions on buildings and grounds?
Yeah,
Can we
just,
take a couple questions?
Sure, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mr.
if you
Cole.
could find out for Steve, and this can wait till Monday night, but how many FTEs we've added in the last 3 years? Because I remember when that semi, if you will, groundskeeper was, you know, put into the budget a couple years ago, and I'd be kind of interested in, again, I mean, just total FTEs for the last 3
Right.
years.
I think the only position that we added was one, at the time, we added the groundskeeper, 1 FTE, figuring
Okay.
that would be enough.
Yeah,
And I think
'cause
that was my first year.
Yeah.
So after 4 years, I think we're
Yeah.
recognizing a little bit more support.
I remember because there was an issue with overtime and public use of the fields, and, you know, it just, I guess if we could have some figures on how that's all balanced out.
Sure.
Would be
And
helpful.
he'll be here Monday night, and
Okay.
we'll have him touch base with you. Yes.
Mayor, you had a question?
I just have a question. Did we look at what we're currently paying some of our Parks Department employees to come up with like the salary for the assistant groundskeeper position?
This would be, obviously, this is part of the union,
Yeah.
so that's within their
what I
step and
thought.
comp,
Right.
correct.
Ms. Walker?
Yeah, just a clarification, it's a full-time position year-round?
Yes,
Okay, thank
full-time
you.
position, correct.
What do the groundskeepers do in January?
They assist with like snow removal, but then we bring them inside the schools and they help out with maintenance throughout the, they still have duties outside, but obviously, you know, not as much. But we do bring them inside and they assist with our maintenance crew.
You could get them to shovel the skate park out too, I guess.
Yes, that's very important. The skate park is
Make note.
one of the major priorities.
Just give me a flamethrower, I'll do it.
What's that?
Give me a flamethrower, I'll do it.
I actually have one.
Do you have any additional questions? All right, we're ready to
Awesome.
move on.
Thank you so much. Ms. McDonald.
Can you guys hear me?
We
Is this
can.
on?
We
Can they hear you
can.
back there?
Can you guys hear me back there? Yes. All right. So the health services budget areas are staffing, which is the nursing staff, supplies and materials, which is all of the supplies and or materials that we need to run our health offices properly. They were, and you know, any PPE that we needed this year, anything that they need for any type of situation that will come across in the health office. And our contracted services include any type of instruction that the nurses need, maybe CPR, PD days, anything that maybe would be a globally across the district in case we needed someone to come in and talk about a specific subject, a specific health matter. In the past, there have been people to come in and kind of help with COVID anxiety and stress. And the CSH grant I also manage, and that supplies the Home for Little Wanderers. It supplies a counselor, and they're actually looking to increase their presence in our schools, and that will come out of the grant. We also pay for the PASS program out of the grant, which is our recovery program for students who have had an infraction of substance abuse, and it's an alternative to suspension. So we use that along with a lot of towns in this area. And it also pays for our electronic medical health records, among a host of other things that the grant pays for. Our district goals are usually the same across the years. We're protecting and promoting student health. We're providing a case management model for coordination of care, which addresses any condition a student may have and will help us support them throughout the day. Educate and support students with chronic health conditions, contribute to a healthy and safe and school environment, which has been pretty ongoing for the last 2 years. Promote and development positive health attitudes and practice throughout the day, and plan and implement programs of prevention. And what we are going to do this year, myself and Lisa Marie Ippolito, is coordinate a comprehensive health education program that spans the whole K-12. So we're looking at putting together a whole K-12 continuum of health education. So the ask this year is for a 0.5 school health administrative assistant who will help with data entry and coordination of schedules and among a host of other things, and that's at the administrative assistant negotiated rate, and so that's the half time. I think that's the end of my slides.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
I just have one question. What does CSHS stand
Oh, I'm
for?
sorry, I meant to say that. That's the Comprehensive School Health Services Grant.
Okay.
So it's a grant from the Department of Public Health that was competitive, and Kathy Riccio applied for it several years ago. And it's it's a renewable grant that can be renewed. Usually they are renewed. The grant before that was called the Essential School Health Services Grant, and that was a 10-year grant, and it was renewed every 3 years, I believe. So we're up on the last year, coming on the last year, and we expect it to be renewed.
Great, thank you.
So it's a really great resource for us. Helps us hire nurses who come in and work the desk while the nurses get their screenings done, hearing and vision, Aspirational screenings, all that, things that we really need to accomplish for Department of Public Health. Yes.
Nice. Ms. Spalding.
Ms. Walker.
Walker. I'm so sorry.
I don't mind being confused with Ms. Spalding. My question is just what your current staffing level is in that department.
So we have 6.5 nurses, so we have 6 nurses in the district, and also a 0.5 special ed nurse.
Okay.
And that special ed nurse is paid out of the special ed pot. Sometimes it's a full-time nurse, sometimes it's a half-time nurse, depending on the needs of the district.
Mr. Menon.
Where would the person be based? Is that going to be a central office base for them, or?
So that, in the past, so they've actually had one in the past, and the person went from school to school. I think that was probably a little disruptive for them. So most likely somewhere where I am, close to where I am, so I can, we can work together.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, I think we have Ms. Ippolito, Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. And then waiting on deck, I think we have.
Can we be the batter's box?
Yeah, I'll grab another seat.
Put the chair over there. It's working
Yes.
nicely.
The cleanup hitter will be Ms. Koch. Come on up,
Yeah.
special ed.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. I think I was going to just start with kind of like my vision and where things came together. So thinking about student achievement and where does it come from? It results from collaborative and meaningful teamwork, concise and clear goals, aligned curriculum tools, as well as input from many different stakeholders. And I don't think any of us here tonight who are presenting did any of our work like in a silo. So hopefully you're going to see some nice connections between all of the presentations tonight. And I think having these meaningful conversations has helped us to look at district resources and that we can use them in such a way that's going to have the greatest impact and be effective for a very long time. So just looking at the budget areas that fall under my domain is curriculum, instruction, and assessment, obviously. And while most of it is salary and materials, it also includes high quality professional development, the core curriculum tools that we use, as well as the intensive and tier 2 curriculum materials. Special populations falls under my department, including McKinney-Vento, which is our homeless population, students in foster care, as well as our English language learners. And then grants, and grants is very, just to be clear, is very vast. So while I have grants on my slide, it also falls under Mrs. Koch's slide and several other staff member slides. But typically the entitlement grants, meaning Title I, II, and IV, fall under my domain, as well as many competitive grants, including, for example, like the MyCap grant that we wrote with Mr. Wolf and Mr. Marcos around our college and career readiness. And also working with I'm a liaison to the foundations of NEF, as well as Swayze and Beacon Coalition, and several others. So we've worked together, and so you'll see hopefully some nice tie-ins between the work from central office and those community groups as well. Also, not listed up here is just the function of professional development in the district, as well as the mentoring and induction program for our new teaching staff. So just thinking about district goals and how it ties to our strategic plan, thinking about, if you remember the last slide that we had showed you, like some of the initiatives we were thinking about was early literacy for all. So we're very proud to have next year, we'll begin our tuition-free full-day kindergarten. We're doing some work also with our pre-K, and you'll see one of the asks on the next slide. And that it's important to think about things like attendance. Attendance is kind of variable right now, obviously with COVID, but I'm happy to say that for Newburyport Public Schools in 2021, 97% of the students attended school. And the average absent rate was 5 absences per student, which I thought was pretty excellent. And obviously it was a safe environment to come to school. And then in terms of students who graduate and stay in school, was at 98%. And so just to be clear, about 96% of that are students who graduate within the 4 years of high school, and 1.5% of that are students who stay on and need maybe a 5th year in terms of graduation. From my department, one of our asks is 3 cheers for pre-K. It's a new program that is aligned, and actually just yesterday, the state adopted it as a go-to program for preschool. It aligns very well with the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. It'll provide our staff and our students, most importantly, a structure that still has play and imagination and creativity involved, but it will provide an equitable education across our pre-K classrooms. We are slated to visit Salem Public Schools, who have adopted 3 cheers. We've already met with them, as well as provided professional development for all the administrators at the BRES, as well as the staff, and we'll continue to do so. And I just want to also say about all of my dollar amounts, those are estimates. We're still working with different companies in terms of pricing. We're also investing in Envisions Math for grades 6 through 8. Envisions is already currently being used in grades 8 and 9 for Algebra 1. And the staff have been off and on in various aspects using Envisions already, but they have decided that they'd like to move forward with this adoption for next year. Foundations is a year 2 project. This is year 1. It's the 2nd year of implementation. We currently share this cost with the NEF, so thank you to the NEF for supporting the district that way. And this ask is for not only the materials for Foundations, but our staff have received monthly online professional development, as well as a digital online tool that houses lots of information and handouts and printables for them. And last up there is MyView, and we use MyView, which is our Literacy Core 1 program for grades K, technically through 6. It's in 6th grade, it's called My Perspectives. And that is also in year 2 for next year. We split the cost with the NEF, they support us. And this is actually a 3-year proposal, so next year will be year 2 of 3. And again, this cost is for professional development, as well as they have an online site that houses assessments, handouts, sign in for parents and students to use when they're at home, as well as the consumable materials. And L staffing additions. So already this year, we have added 1.5 additional teachers and 1 para, and we are still in need currently. We have grown from 54 students, I think in September, to 80 current L students right now in the district. And if you do the math, you might say to yourself, okay, 6 goes into 80. That doesn't sound like a lot of kids per person. But when instructing L students, it's not the same way that we would instruct a general ed student. When students come into the district, they receive a screener, and that tells us their level of English that they've attained. And they fall into different categories from level 1 through 6. And according to those categories is the amount of services that they require by law. So for example, our newcomers who have joined our community, they received intensive services. We're actually at, believe it or not, 8 weeks that our newcomers have been here, so they're graduating out of newcomer status and doing a very, very good job with that. And so, but their services initially were very intensive, and it took a lot of work on my part, but also Krista Picios's part, as well as the entire L department, to massage the schedule so that we were able to service the students. But for example, a student maybe who is a level 1 L student, they would require 5 times 45 or 5 times 60, depending on their grade level, of intensive L services. And thinking about it that way, over 80 children and 80 different needs, we're asking for a little bit more staffing. And that is my portion.
All right, Mr. Callahan.
Thanks, Lux Marie. The L stuff, what's the dollar amount?
Well, it depends on the staffing. I would estimate per teacher around 65,000.
And what are our needs? What are our anticipated needs?
Our anticipated need is 1 additional teacher, but also noting that we are potentially going to change the 1 para we added this year and changing that into a teaching position, because we just find we have a greater need for a teaching role than a para role at this time.
So 1 or possibly 2?
Or possibly 2, depending on the numbers. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
And just the 3 cheers and vision foundations, in my view, are those, I know you said the 2 were half funded by the NEF, so those numbers are actually cut in half.
Yes, and that is like a 1, they're cut in half, but they're also year 2 payment.
Okay.
For the programs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But are the 3 shares and then vision, what am I trying to say? Are any of these totally brand new, or are they replacing something that then we're gonna not have to pay for?
Yes, exactly. So 3 Cheers is totally brand new. There has not been a program at the pre-K level. And Envisions Math will take the place of Eureka Math at grade 6 and 7.
So whatever that cost is will drop off.
Yes, and we're also in a bidding grant process right now with the state to cover some of the math costs at the elementary level. So that will also help support. That's why it's actually, 20,000 is pretty low cost for a 6 through 8 full implementation. So I'm feeling confident about our grant status.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hi. Could you just clarify, is that the cut in half figure, or is it half of 10,000?
No, that is the cut in half figure.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So basically, if you're looking at foundations, the way that it's working is that the NEF is purchasing the consumable materials, like the workbooks and the journals, and the district is purchasing the durables. So those are the things that we hope to last a little bit longer, not year to year, but they're little kids and they have magnetic boards with letters, and letters get lost and they get scratched. So We just want to make sure they have the right tools because, for example, Foundations is the kind of program where it's very systematic. So you need to have, you can't just buy any old whiteboard, and they're not cheap. They're like $16 a board for one board. So we just want to make sure that everyone has the proper materials.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor?
I had a couple questions, but it might just be helpful, and you just started to do it, that's why I was gonna stop, but just to explain to people at home what Foundations is.
Oh,
and
sure.
stuff. You know, it's supplemental, it's really a specific need that you're trying to fill, but people might wanna know that.
Excellent. So Foundations is our word study program that we currently utilize grades K through 3. It basically is teaching phonemic awareness and phonics skills to our students. And we use it as the word study piece out of, in reading and literacy, there are 5 pillars. And so phonemic awareness and phonics are 2 of the pillars. And then we use My View, for example, at the elementary level, for reading fluency, comprehension, as well as vocabulary. Great.
And so the 3 cheers, does that break down to pretty much like classroom, like kits for each pre-K teacher? Is that
Yes.
how that package is in there?
Yes, so we have a great relationship, so I should say this, we have a great relationship with Savis, so they're cutting us some deals because of our purchasing and our work with them.
I noticed that while I was looking at it.
Yeah, yes, and so what 3 Cheers comes with is each teacher receives 9 units with everything included. They don't have to want for anything else. They don't need supplemental material, but they also have a teacher kit that comes with it that also supports them if they want to be a little bit more creative and those types of things. And we are also establishing that we want to provide professional development before the school year ends, so that those teachers who want to work during the summer to go through their kits, and maybe we'll have a work group during the summer, is still a lot up in the air. But we want our students at every grade level just to have the best start when we hopefully start COVID-free in the fall. Yeah.
Great. Oh, one more, Ms. Walker?
Yeah, so I had a question about, there was a literacy, I think it was like a coordinator position that has been vacant now, I think since last year. And I was wondering what you have done, what your current staffing plan is for that, and whether there's any budgeting need for that position.
Sure. So we have Dr. Abrams, who is the literacy coordinator for 6 through 12. Myself, as well as Rebecca Stewart from the Bresnahan, have kind of adopted that literacy coordinator position for this year, and will continue to do so for next year. My hope is that through Swayze that we're going to establish some teacher leadership opportunities around literacy, because I truly believe that you need to have teacher leaders that will help spread the message with their colleagues, and you know, engage in a lot more excitement around that work.
Just a follow-up question on that, not specifically to that, but are you doing, so it sounds like you're sort of thinking about in the future you might change some staff roles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Does your current budget consider any major changes in roles? Are you changing people around from one position to another in the future that maybe doesn't have a direct impact on the budget, but it's sort of part of your overall staffing and budget alignment?
Not for next year. Okay. But in time, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I had one more, sorry. One more clarification on the questions about the positions. So we currently have how many new positions for the recent additions that you're trying, I guess it would be helpful to know how many EL total staff you have and how many you're asking for.
Okay, so currently I have 5.5 EL staff.
Great.
And I'm asking for technically an even 6, possibly 7. But right now, we want to change potentially to all full-time positions.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Cole, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Assistant Superintendent, you mentioned online PD. Now, how embedded is that in, I guess, the total educators in our district? Like, how many folks have access to that, or?
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
excellent question, thank you. So, they are, it happens during their grade level meeting time, so that the whole team, including special education and the reading specialists, are also involved. And the great thing about the foundations training, it's recorded. So let's say you're absent from work one day, you can always go back and watch it, or if you just want a refresher, you can go back and watch it. Some of the conversations that we've already had with the different vendors that we're working with is they'd love to start coming in and being live, which is really exciting to us. So we're hoping that we'll also add that in addition to the digital resources.
I also know that Superintendent Gallagher has worked really hard in the last few years to, I guess, move forward with some professional development programs in-house, so to speak, or built on relationships that he has had in the past. Is there a way to quantify that in terms of costs and savings? Because I think, moving ahead with the budget and hoping for aspirational levels, I think it's important to show what the costs and what the savings have been, because I know, frankly, having sat on this committee for a while, there's not always a lot of savings, and it seems like that's one thing that this administration has been able to do.
Great. I have that information, so I can bring it. I was told this is very top level, so that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
But I will share with you, for example, the January 14th full day PD that we held here, in terms of the hiring of people, cost us a total of $5,000 for one person, and the rest of it was everyone gave of themselves free. And so we had over 18 sessions 3 times over. So I think that was pretty successful.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What was your first question?
First question was how embedded the online PD is for the educators in our district. So how widespread it is.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I had one more. Is there federal and/or state funding available for our newcomers support at the schools?
Funny you should ask. Not at this time,
Okay,
but
that's what
there
I thought.
is some legislation going around from the superintendent and assistant superintendent community, and there are meetings that are about to be held to say, here's a list of unfunded mandates that we need a little help with. Yeah, and Newburyport's very fortunate, so I'm glad you brought that up. So, we've partnered with Our Neighbors Table, Pettingill House, NYS. We have another family night coming up, and I just happen to be talking to our federal liaison and sharing what we did for our L population for our family night. And she's like, oh, that's amazing. And she shared it with all these people, and she says, oh, I shared it with the Title III people. And I'm like, well, we don't get Title III. We did that with the support of the people around us here in Newburyport. So I just think that's just something to be so proud of. I'm just proud of this district.
Yeah, thanks.
This community.
Mr. Bennett?
I hate to be the one to ask the question, but do you anticipate that we will also be getting Ukrainian newcomers at any point in the coming year?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The news yesterday morning said that there were 600,000 Ukraine refugees who potentially would be coming to the United States. I have not received any intel or information around that, but also when I'm talking about newcomers, we've had a significant amount of Brazilian students as newcomers join us as well. Yeah, so we're happy to welcome them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I think as part of our budget process, I think we're always looking to reallocate. And so we do have some competitive grants that we've applied. So I would think within the next 4 or 5 weeks, we'll understand if we do have more funding coming in. The other piece too is this is the time when some of our professional staff are looking to retire. So we are getting some of those retirements. So we kind of, as we're in this process, we take all of that, and we, as you said, Ms. Walker, we end up reallocating and moving stuff around. The other piece that I think we do a great job of is we really sit down as a district with the district leadership team, and then we really look at our programs, and we look at staffing patterns, and then every year I think we've always tweaked and moved things around to benefit the students. Because I think for us, as Mr. Menon said, with the newcomers that have come into the, now, I think we're making those adjustments, and I think we're doing it very well. But last year, if you recall, we didn't know anything about newcomers, and we, so there are some things I think within the middle of the year budget, the operational budget, that we always are looking to shift resources. And I think that's the difference between schools and in some cases the city is there's a lot of fixed costs in cities, but we're the people business, and we make our adjustments not only to the staff but to the student needs. And I think we have a great team that is constantly looking at how we do business. And speaking of that, our cleanup hitter now about special education, and she solved all those problems. So here you go, Miss Koch. It's this little guy right there. There you go. See this little arrow? Yeah.
Hello. So the majority of this, can you guys hear me back there? I can use my lifeguard voice. Out of the pool. So the majority, there are 5 primary line items of the special education budget, which are out-of-district tuition, transportation, salaries, professional development, and program development. The district goal for special education is that all students will gain an understanding of their learning profile and develop self-advocacy skills, independence, so that they can reach their vision and navigate in their community. To that end, we are investing in program and staff development and alignment of programming. So the special education budget investments for FY23 for pre-K through grade 5 is a continuation of language-based program development. Our wish is 1 increased teacher for a strategies-based instruction teacher, an additional teacher for a full-day kindergarten special education co-teacher. Our goal is to have 2 Sorry. Our goal.
I was going to tell you in my lifeguard voice, but I decided not to.
Okay, thank you. You could have, though. Our goal is to have 2 kindergarten classes, which will be co-taught with the general ed teacher and the special ed education teacher, with the goal that those students' needs will be addressed as much as possible in an inclusion setting rather than being pulled out. And then to address all these needs at Bresnahan, we are also asking for 3 additional instructional assistants, each for those programs, which would be an estimated cost of $140,000. At the middle school level, we are going to continue with language-based program development, expanding that to grade 6 and 7 next year. Again, we will be developing a strategies-based instruction program, which we are asking for 1 additional instructional assistant that will be tied directly to that program. And we are asking for 1 school adjustment counselor or social worker for the Therapeutic Learning Center. That is an estimated cost of $95,000. For the high school, we are asking for an additional 1.0 reading teacher to address the increased reading needs of the students that are as outlined on their individual educational plans. We are also asking for an additional inclusion instructional assistant to address the increased needs of the students as outlined in their IEPs. And we are also asking for 2 instructional assistants for the IDC or Independent Development Center for next year, as there has not been a need for an IDC program for grades 9 through 12. We have students moving up, thus we need to expand that program. The estimated cost there is $155,000. In addition to the professional development that we provide throughout the year through the Student Services Department, we would like to provide Orton Gillingham training to those teachers who will be tied to the language-based program. In addition, we would like to expand our relationship with Landmark Outreach and the Autism Community Therapist Group. They will be working with our teachers, both general education and special education teachers, so that we will be, again, consulting on specific student cases, as well as further developing teaching strategies to address student needs. So the goal of the professional development is to further invest in our teachers and staff to enhance their teaching strategies, that the students can remain in their home schools and in their home community to obtain their education. That's it.
Mayor?
Oh, I knew I'd have questions. Yes, Mayor.
Nancy, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm just curious, are you finding that, you know, the need for the 1.0 reading teacher is COVID related at all? Are we seeing a lot more kids who might be a little bit further behind than
Yes.
typical, and they're
Yes.
testing that way and have found their
Yes.
way on IDs? Okay.
Yes.
If I could follow up on the mayor's question, is there also some need for the reading teacher because of the new children who are coming into the district from other places?
Well, we haven't seen that yet. I'm sure that will be an issue sooner than later. But we are also, right now, the number of students who receive special education services who are seniors, and the number of 8th graders soon to be entering the high school is very disproportionate. So there are far more 8th graders coming than we're losing. Thus, an increase in staff are needed to address their needs.
Question,
Sure.
with I had heard about the 8th graders moving to 9th grade. Is there any potential to move staff with them, or is that not
So if you,
not feasible?
it is.
Yeah.
So if, where am I? At the high school, we're only asking for 2 instructional assistants for the IDC program, because there will be a staff that will move.
Some staff will move up.
Yeah, the teacher.
Okay, and my other question is, you'd mentioned with the district professional development, looking at maybe bringing some kids back from out-of-district placements. Do we have any numbers or information about that?
We have a few. I cannot definitively. We will definitely we will be bringing back at least 2 students. I will say a director's goal is always to bring students back to their home community, for sure. But the goal, the bigger goal, is to prevent them from leaving in the first place. So the investment for all this staff development is that we will be keeping students in and preventing them from going out in the first place. Now, that being said, there will always be individual students who will need a far more restrictive, specialized environment. But the goal is to keep as many in their home community as possible.
Great. I was just hoping we could think of some of these costs for new staff as possibly saving on tuition, potentially.
Potentially.
Okay.
And I think the potential will be not only bringing them back, but the potential is that you're increasing with them going out. So you're
Right.
preventing them leaving also. That's a real focus.
Priority, definitely. Are there any other questions for Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just to follow up with Nancy. So since she's been in district, a lot of these positions, exactly what Ms. Hall said, is developing in-district programming to provide the needs for all of our students that are here currently. She also spent a long time throughout the summer, probably about at least 4 months, reviewing all of the IEPs within the district, and then really understanding of literacy need for our students. And this is why I think partnering with Lisa Ippolito with the literacy focus all the way at the pre-K, literacy focused at the elementary, but as you can see, development in district programming regarding literacy is really going to pay dividends because it's really focusing on the needs of the district right now. So as Ms. Hall said, so these investments, Orton, Gillingham, and Landmark, a lot of our students go to Landmark, and so we're now working with Landmark, we're creating in-district programming that is going to be very similar to what the students are getting at Landmark. So I just want to credit, Lisa Ippolito and also Nancy for really just focusing their efforts on that. So, all right, here's Mr. Enthusiasm right here. Mr. Wolf, come on up.
I'm going to try to maintain myself.
Get the little clicker there?
Yes.
You know how to use that, right?
I hope so. It's a little different than the one.
I thought
Oh, perfect. Newburyport High School.
I'm just surprised we're even getting slides.
Yeah. And I can even, to touch upon what Sean was just talking about, we've had our TLC program for 2 years now at the high school, and we have 5 students who are still in it. And so just a great example of prevention, and then having a similar program down at the middle school, I think will reap dividends for the school system. So as far as the high school area with the budget, I do want to first just say a big thanks to my school council. We actually have here tonight Jamie Grant, who is the chairperson of the council, and then we also have Dr. Ralph Orlando, who has attended every meeting and has been a part of the discussion and thought process as we've worked on our school improvement plan, looking at data, but then also at the same time thinking through our budget. And then also on the committee, we have Anya Brudnick, Chris Kane, Lucas Dano, and Rhea Kaur, who are our student representatives, and then Mark Littlefield and Catherine Mayo, who are our teacher representatives. And with the connection to our school improvement plan, and so a big piece that we've been working on for several years now is just constantly trying to improve our school climate. And so that is, it's been a priority for me, and it continues to be an effort that we are engaging in. But then also in regards to student achievement and our student learning goal, so really working to improve our growth performance, but especially with attention to our high needs population, which includes our special needs students, English language learners, and students of low income, where we do have a gap that we're continuously trying to improve upon and decrease. And then the other area is trying to increase access to advanced coursework, especially with our high needs subgroup as well. And then we also have our college and career readiness goals. Last year, through the budget process, we were able to create our College and Career Resource Center by bringing on a college and career counselor. And then really with all of our students being able to demonstrate college and career readiness skills by the time that they graduate, and that they leave with a personalized and flexible post-secondary plan. And so that's been the work that Mr. Roboto Smith has really been putting into action this year in his role. And then accomplishments over the past few years in regards to the strategic planning that the district has done and that we're continuing also to work on. So at the high school, in regards to teaching and learning strategy, so our teachers have been kind of reorganized into they're organized into common planning teams, but where they work to develop common assessments so that they can engage in student action planning. And that's one of the areas that we focus on to help to try to reduce our achievement gap. And then the other piece is working towards a one-to-one program and the integration of technology throughout our curriculum, and having the new position of technology and communication, which Lisa Furlong is in. There's been a lot of work done to really help move us forward there. As for self-discovery and personal achievement, so that's where we've been doing a lot of work with the MyCap, which is career and academic plan, and a lot of that is, all right, what am I doing after high school? So really trying to strengthen our curriculum and the work that students do there. And then with sports for all students, from an expansion of the tiered supports that we offer at the high school, but where the magic happens is really in the classroom, and really trying to support teachers with the professional development about what it means to engage and make use of data in the moment, and then strategically group students to target instruction. And then again, with our whole school climate, so again, we have this mindset of growth, and that is really our theme that we just continue to push upon the students and our teachers. And over the past few years, we've really worked to train more and more staff on the art of dialogue, and really teaching students what does it really mean to listen, being able to offer your input, construct an argument, but at the same time taking in differing ideas and opinions. And then with organizational design, everyone's aware how we were 2 years ago, we went to the later start time, and our new schedule, which is now a 3-day rotation, where it used to be a 7-day rotation. And we created a flex block, which is our clipper block, which gives students choice in seeking support from teachers, because the whole school is in the clipper block at the same time. And then the other organizational piece is the common plan, how we've kind of restructured how we use staff time, where it really is all about common planning at the high school when that is going on. And then again, our College and Career Resource Center. And then as far as a community of stakeholders, a big emphasis for us at the high school has really been trying to elevate student voice, but then also giving them a structure to do so. And it's really been great to see our student council just evolve each year into a stronger organization. They got their hats back this year because of the structure that they've put in place, and they are a force to reckon with now. So they have a seat at the table is really what it comes down to, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, and then obviously we just continue to increase the partnerships that we have at the high school, and again, that's a big part of our college and career counselor that we had brought on last school year. So as far as moving forward, so you can see here with this slide, this really just shows at the high school how all of our funding is allocated. And you can see that our biggest investment is in our personnel, with salaries being at the 82%. And then you'll see from my presentation tonight, what we're looking to try to help make the high school grow is also in some personnel areas also. So with the work and a lot of the research and exploration that has been going on with the expansion of integrating technology into our curriculum, is recognizing that we will have a need to really support teachers as they engage with the tool, so that they can really use it to design lessons that help to spark innovation and creativity in the classroom, and really work to engage students around the content, but then at the same time developing the skills of a graduate that's now articulated with the portrait of a graduate. Last June, Kevin Sheridan came here he had been part of a pilot and the use of an iPad, and just being able, and what he was able to show you was just how students can actually get that 3-dimensional look and play around and actually make math come to life in the classroom versus just writing 2-dimensionally on the board. So there's definitely a lot of possibilities with this work, but then also recognizing that you need somebody who can get into the classroom, coach teachers, and really make them more comfortable, and how the technology can really just expand what currently happens in regards to engaging students with the content and skills. So this is a non-personnel related area, but last school year, with support from a grant, we were able to, or actually it was this school year, excuse me, it was this past fall, we gave every 10th grader and an 11th grader the PSAT. And really this was for several different reasons. But first of all, it just gives us access to such rich data. And I was actually very impressed with the reports that came back, and we were able to do a PD session with the College Board. The teachers participated in a data dive to really understand what the information meant. And what was really impressive about the reports was how it really showed literacy across the curriculum, where they got into scientific analysis, and they got into analytical. It was social studies analysis as well, developing themes, constructing arguments. So it was just great data for help us with our work, as we really can see areas that we can strengthen our curriculum in terms of increasing literacy in all areas that the students are exposed to when they go from one class to the next. The other piece that was also very helpful with what we gained is that you can also run these great reports so that you can actually see potential for students to succeed in college level classes. So as teachers become better with the reports, we're gonna be able to communicate to students, well, this shows you that you should be, based off of this score, when you go to college and the intro level class, you should be able to pass the class with a C or a B. But then also at the same time, it provides information for students for what college level classes they may want to try while in high school, whether it's an advanced placement class or a dual enrollment class, which we've been trying to expand more opportunities for that over time. So since last year, this was part of a grant that we were able to fund for this year. We're looking to be able to do this again, and that would be the $10,000 cost for every sophomore and junior to be able to take the PSAT. And then in the end, it's for students who are electing to take the SAT as part of their college application process. That provides great practice for them as well. And so this position here is about bringing on a math and science interventionist. So one of the pieces that we've been looking at is over the past 7 years, looking at our achievement gap. And then math and science, that's where it's most significant. And so the idea of bringing on a math science intervention is that it allows us to create a lab at the high school. So especially for students that are part of our academic support program and or our learning lab, this person would be able to further develop skills in the areas of science and in math. And especially reinforce foundational skills in those areas. And then last but not least, so every 10 years, high schools go through an accreditation process, and we are getting ready to start ours. So we're gonna be starting in our 2-year cycle. And so in preparation for the first year of this process would be putting in $10,000 to support the stipend work, because it is a faculty-driven process, but it'll be a primary focus for us next year, and it's a lot of work and a lot of time. And this is typically what a lot of high schools will do, will be make sure that they do have stipend available to be able to support the work that will be considerably outside of the school time. Okay. That is me.
Questions? Mr. Cole?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first off, Mr. Wolf, I think the PSAT for All is a really great program. In fact, I've, in my years on a committee and having had the opportunity to visit some superintendent finalist school districts, I've encountered a couple of them that have been doing it for years. And besides the data that you talk about, I think the other thing that provides is an opportunity to find, if you will, a diamond in the rough with a particular student, and really may allow that student some opportunities that they may have not otherwise had the chance to pursue. So I really like that. I also think that it's important to use that process to take a holistic look at the student. Mm-hmm. because it isn't just data. It's really the whole child, the whole student. The other thing I'd just like to touch on is I've looked at the supports for all students, and I'm wondering, have you ever thought about some type of peer-to-peer tutoring program that could happen at the high school?
Actually, we are starting those conversations with the National Honor Society. So now that we have our Clipper block, and this is our first year of really implementing the block the way that it should be running. And so we are looking at next year where National Honor Society would be available in the library during that time to help with the tutoring.
Yeah, I mean, I think any type of regularly structured program that perhaps can be coordinated by teachers as well, would be really helpful to address things like executive functioning, organization, time management, homework routine. And I also think you mentioned, I think you have it, I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly, dialogic teaching strategies?
Yes.
I mean, I think that's one way to actively reinforce those in a peer-to-peer program and help with understanding. So I'm glad to hear that that's going on, because I really think it's important to provide, academic supports wherever possible, because, and I know when you first came on board, and I know one of the things that I think you were promoting was if a student had a study hall, you wanted basically for the student to write out what they were planning to do with that time. So I think along the same lines, this will help, that will help do that as well. And really, in these times where we've seen gaps in learning, it may be a way to, mitigate against some of that and, make some gains back. So I'm glad to hear that you're actively moving forward with the peer-to-peer stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Walker?
So I have a few questions. Just a clarification on the technology integration specialist. Is that a unique position, or is there other people already in that department?
So actually, that's great. So at the Bresnahan and at the Knock-Mullen, there are integration specialists already. So this would kind of finish that whole team.
So they'd be a team?
Correct,
okay,
yes.
Super. And I think this goes without saying, but obviously the PSAT for all would just be another assessment for you to utilize. You have other assessments that you use?
Correct. We are creating common assessments.
Yep.
And then this would be another assessment
mechanism.
as well, correct.
Okay. And then as just a sort of one of my personal interests, I know that the high school and also the middle school have talked about growing the theater, arts, and music programs, bringing it up to a higher caliber than it is now, and maybe restoring to what it used to be in some ways. Was that part of your budget considerations this year? How are you feeling about your staffing in those areas?
I mean, right now, I think it's exactly what you're saying. It's trying to build up the interest and getting our numbers higher so that we can get to a point of really trying to increase the personnel numbers that we have there. And that is something that with Mr. Marcos and then with Lisa Furlong earlier about how can we really better bridge the connection between the program that happens down at the middle school and then up to the high school, and potentially how do we share staff to make that happen.
Yeah, I encourage you to keep thinking about that, and I know you're working with the middle school. I just, it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing, if you're waiting for the interest to arrive and you're not providing the program in the first place, which I know you're trying to grow. I hope that continues to be a focus of all the schools, because I think people don't necessarily know they're a budding musician until they actually get the opportunity to do it. And similarly, arts and theater are so important to people's, overall balance and growth academically as well. So I hope that continues to be a focus, and would encourage you to keep thinking along those lines.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one of the areas we are exploring is more of an integrated arts program. And so really taking a look at the whole arts, which is visual and performing, and using the idea of the one-to-one program and the technology about how do you strengthen this, which ideally will bring in more students, I think. So
thank you.
All right.
a question about the tech specialist. Would you mind going back to that slide?
Yes.
So I can... Great. So my question was, if we were going to adopt the one-to-one device program, would there be additional costs associated with that beyond the specialist? Seems like there would be. That's why I'm asking. Would that money come from NEF or for the devices themselves and the training?
The parents pay for this.
Oh, that's how it would work?
Well, I think there's all
Okay.
different models that school systems employ. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not at that point yet to determine what's gonna be the best model, but what Brian just shared could be one of the models. Like some
Okay.
school systems have what's called a lease to own.
So, yeah, okay, I'm just trying to make sense of if this position is going to support this program, are there other costs associated
Yes.
with the program? It sounds like
Yeah, there will
probably.
be, yes. To
There
some
would be
degree.
some.
Correct, at some point, yes.
Okay, all right, that was my question. Thank you. Were there any other questions?
But I
Yeah.
think also though, that person is obviously, people we have in each building because of all the different programs you're trying to implement. I mean, it doesn't have to be tied to a one-to-one device program. It can just be the curriculum that you're using. You can have a technology specialist there to help the teachers navigate and get trained on how to use that software or that curriculum, best on the devices too. So I mean, it's not necessarily, tied to the one-to-one, but it's gonna be great if we do get to that
Correct,
point.
yes.
And have that person in the building.
What have we been doing, like currently, if the other two buildings, what is it, the Bresnahan and Knock, the Avalon?
Mhm.
What has the high school been doing? I know the IT guy mentioned it at the Apple meeting. How has that been working? Until now? If we haven't had that.
So teachers
position.
kind of depend on each other. They actually did have a structure in place years ago where they had trained teachers with the Chromebooks and different ways that you can access them. But also at the same time, right now, we're using Chromebooks, where there's only so much that you can really do with those types of devices.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think Mr. Marcos is up. Anytime.
Yes, and I think that that's part of our, that's just one piece, that interventionist. But we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes regarding making sure, from an infrastructure, from a Wi-Fi. So we're putting all those pieces in place. But right now, I think the first focus for our staff is to make sure they have the devices. As we look at the portrait of a graduate, and we really want our teachers to be innovative, creative, develop critical thinking skills. I think the one piece they're missing is the software and the tool to do that. So I think right now at the high school level, utilizing some grant funding, we're looking at purchasing, really upgrading the staff's devices with professional development, with an upgrade to the broadband. In anticipation for that, so, yeah. All right. Next up, what is this, Mr. Marin, is this batter 6? Is this number, is this 6? Yeah, Wolfie was 5, yeah.
I think we're at 6.
We're almost through the batting lineup.
Once, just once.
2 bags more than
I have to move up the batting lineup, but Major League Baseball's on strike, so we'll get there eventually. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Obviously, I'm the new leadership. It's the first time I've been able to greet you guys, so welcome. So hopefully today we're able to also make some connections to the previous presentations, but also really tie into what Mr. Wolf spoke about. I hope you'll be able to see plenty of connections through both presentations. So I've had the pleasure this year to work with my school council. I just want to highlight their names. So Deb Caston is here today. She's my co-chair. Becky McKnight, Lee Gordon, Amy Brown, Boyd Hancock, Jackie Russo, and our interim assistant principal, Alyssa Gallegos. So our plan is up this June. So we've been working already diligently on providing a new plan for the district for the Knock Middle School for the next 3 years. So you'll see, similar language that, Mr. Wolf talked about, using common assessments has really been a goal of ours over the past 3 to 4 years of the Knock Middle School as we established our common assessments. We established our skills and standards-based units. Really now, this year, we've really been working on our baseline, interim, and at the end of the year, the end of the course examinations, really has really nice data points to essentially assess the viability of our curriculum, right? Is our curriculum and our results in the classroom aligning to MCAS results? Obviously, it's a little bit smoky right now because obviously with COVID and the changes of the MCAS testing, so hopefully once DESE can land on a test, hopefully for more than 3 years, it seems like every 3 years they change it a little bit, we'll be able to really assess the viability of our curriculum. But the great thing, as we do our mapping, that never stops. So the great thing about Google Docs, you continuously make changes. That's essentially what happens with our course mapping. So that's where it aligns with our professional learning goal. Also with our student learning goal and our program development goal, you'll see the needs that we're asking for our budget ask align directly towards our student learning goal to be able to create access and interventions for all of our students, not just those on IEPs. And then also our program development goal aligns quite nicely with the portrait of a graduate and vertically aligning with our 6 through 12 model. So, obviously plenty of work that has been done. And I think one of the things, without highlighting every single thing that we've done here over the past 3-4 years, just really proud of obviously the district, but really the NOC faculty and staff that, I was speaking from a parent from another district who lives in another town that's very similar to Newburyport. The struggles that my district has as a parent, I'll put my parent hat on now, the struggles that they've had to move their buildings through the pandemic, I can very clearly state to you, and I hope that you guys see this throughout the district, as a team, we've been able to move our schools. So all of this work, the vast majority of it, all of the advances has been done through 2 years of living through the pandemic. So I just want to, compliment my staff, our faculty and staff, our teachers are at the front line of this, and obviously on the leadership of Superintendent Gallagher and Assistant Superintendent Ippolito, our whole central office team. You can essentially see all the work that we've been able to do over the past 2 years plus. So very similar to Mr. Wolf and the rest of the presentations, our biggest investment and asset is our teachers. So that's why you see the 90% in our salaries. So obviously adding a few more positions to this will keep the status quo of investing in our most important people, our faculty. So Nancy alluded to this, the addition of our school adjustment counselor. I just want to kind of talk about what that not only will do for our students with the most need, but also our students, all of our students throughout the NOC. So right now we have 2 school adjustment counselors that service the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. By adding an additional school adjustment counselor, one would be allocated to that Bridge TLC program. That will allow us to get more access for all of our students. So I've always used this example as far as I might be a student that has been diagnosed with anxiety. Most likely I am working with a counselor with building skills and how to deal with those instances through school. That counselor is working with me, whether it's a session of 30 minutes or a skills group, whatever that might look like. However, there are a vast majority of our students that may have test anxiety. We unfortunately have not been able to meet the needs of most of our students in the general education setting because our school adjustment counselors, the 2 of them, their grids are full, their time is full throughout the day. So by adding that 3rd school adjustment counselor, we're going to be able to use our flex block, where that's a block where our students are receiving academic support, to use that 3rd counselor to get into those classrooms to be able to work these skills that our students need, not just through the school day, but also in real life. Also just being able to expand our restorative justice program and collaborative problem solving, along with just being able to have some more wraparound services for our families and that school to parent, counselor to parent student relationship. And we're estimating that cost in the special education budget at approximately $65,000. Second position is one that I'm really excited about, and I'm going to spend just a little bit more time on. So it's really a connection of our vertical alignment and really focusing on our strategic planning as well as the portrait of a graduate. So to paint the picture for you, you guys know that I have a background teaching and leading schools in Miami. So the reality is all of this great work that the high school has presented now in that 9 through 12 and really having students leave the high school with a portfolio, with a plan, whether that being college bound or career ready, that's gonna trickle down to the middle school. So that PSAT program, school committee, Mr. Cole, I couldn't agree with you more as far as finding that diamond in the rough. So I can remember sitting in a AP US class I used to teach in Miami, and there was a student by the name of Daniel Canona who came in, and he would sit in the front row. He said, if this was my podium lecturing, back then lecturing was, the right thing to do, not. But he sat in the second row, second row from the second seat, second row from the wall, and he would do this the whole time. And it was 90 minutes, and he would just listen. And then the day of the test, kids would pass in their binders with DBQs and outlines and notes and all this other stuff that I had them do, 200 vocabulary terms, because I was the toughest teacher, and I would grade them and give them all these grades that were useless at the time. And I said, Daniel, where's your binder? I didn't do them. Oh, really? Okay, well, good luck on your test, buddy. Sit down, do the test, pass it in. How'd this kid get a 97? Right? Ends up passing the AP US exam with a 5, ends up getting into BU. So this is a student that was a Cuban immigrant, came into our school district as a 6th grader with a 6 through 12, obviously an L student, migrant family, under some really tough political refugee circumstances. That's why they left the country. This is a student who applied to go to Boston University and got in. So that's who our students in Newburyport are competing against if they're on that college-bound track. And it was really one of the things that we did. Daniel Canona, in the eyes of our teachers, including myself, had no business being in an advanced placement class. He was in an IEP. If he didn't take that PSAT in his 8th grade year, he would have never been in AP Geography, AP Psychology, AP US, AP Euro, and an array of other advanced placements. So I agree with you. So that's really where this, the MyCap counselor, to align with the great work what Mrs. Smith has been doing up at the high school, but also using it as a third person kind of that complements our team in the sense of using it for scheduling and also supporting the advisory curriculum that has been so well received from our students and our faculty and continuously building those trusting relationships with adults. And again, that's an estimated cost of about $65,000. Also the vision that we would have, to support in the high school would be, it would be ideal, down the road if we could get 6th graders on a college campus. Let's say they go to Middlesex Community College, and then 7th graders go to a UMass Lowell because of proximity, and then 8th graders go into Boston and visit, an Emerson, a BU, a BC, whatever. So by the time these kids have gotten to high school, they've already been on 3 college campuses. But also this person would be able to support having people that do the trainings, the ACTs, the aviations, coming in and also talking about the career path at an early age, using Naviance as something which is the MyCap grant will support as well. So giving our kids a plan earlier than 9th grade and supporting the high school with their vision as well. I think that's all I have. Yeah.
All right, Mayor?
So if I'm looking at this one, we don't have a curriculum that we're ready to put in place. That this is someone we would bring in, hopefully work with the high school and build a curriculum?
That's correct. So working with Aaron up at the high school for that MyCap vertical alignment, we do have an advisory program curriculum that we're currently utilizing, but someone that would be able to grow that and sustain that and using that vertical alignment with our college career readiness focus to enhance that program even further.
Have we seen this like anywhere else that we could work with another district who maybe has done something similar, or?
I'm not aware of anybody locally that's doing a MyCap middle school counselor. Mm-hmm. I don't know anybody, but I'm happy I could probably reach out to some North Shore principals and see.
Yeah. There might be some best practices out there we just haven't found yet.
Absolutely.
Mr. Callahan?
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. One, can you clarify the adjustment counselor? That's already in the special ed ask, or this is an additional 65?
No, that is already in the special ed ask,
okay.
Correct. Yep.
So, and I'm gonna kind of echo what Ms. Walker said. There's nothing in here for no asks for the arts. I've been to plenty of programs and they're awesome productions.
Absolutely.
Mr. Nicholson and the kids, but the tech has been lacking, particularly in sound.
Yeah.
It's always breaking, but is that not being asked for improvements?
Yeah, so, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, doesn't the NEF have a big, right? Have you talked about that since you've been on there?
With only one.
Oh, okay. So I think that I won't say anything. You guys can tell me, but
So I can fill in some of the things, and if I'm missing anything, please somebody chime in. So we have our, the NFS supported a new podcasting.
I know about that part.
Yeah, so that's one thing. So as far as asks go from our, for arts and our music. So before COVID, we had an extremely robust program. Unfortunately with COVID, I think a lot of kids were worried about taking too much on. So I think what we need to do is, from a scheduling and personnel standpoint, I don't feel we need to add anything staffing. What we have to do is to continue to build up the program. So one of the things, I actually met with Brian Nickerson and Kathy Shepard, who's our it's essentially a 1.5 position. One of the things that we wanted to encourage for next year, even starting it towards the end of the year, is getting the students that have never played an instrument to come on down and just try one out. So we have that flex block that I feel at certain points in our time we have underutilized. So using Jackie Russo now, we're working with Jackie to really build a robust, I want to call it, it's like almost a playful hour in the sense of kids can experience something that I've done all my work, I've done my silent reading, now I can sign up for a robotics theme for 8 weeks. I can sign up for a mindfulness routine for 8 weeks. I can go learn how to play the ukulele again because it was, I haven't been exposed to that in a year or so. So I think what we need to do is focus more on, we have a great staff. It's really just being able to create scheduling time within our schedules. I think we can be able to do that during our flex block and getting that back into the rotation now that we're under, I think, less restrictions with obviously no mask and being able to put full performances on and really build some steam back up in those programs.
So the school, I mean, you guys are okay with like the soundboard and all that? I mean, we've all been to those plays where the sound drops out.
Right, I'll go up there. We're upgrading that through the NEF.
Okay, so entirely, okay.
Yeah, we voted on that.
Lisa Marie is raising her hand.
She is?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Mr. Gallagher said yes, the NEF is sponsoring a new soundboard for the auditorium. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Oh, I got one more. I got
sure.
one for you.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
I guess one of the, and I know that, I'm a big supporter of the importance of place-based education, as you may know. And I guess one of the things, again, since this is an aspirational budget, or at least we're looking at one, interested to know, because I'm looking at the self-discovery and personal achievement. I heard what you said about collaboration and problem solving within a different area, but I also believe that issues of sustainability is a great thing to look at in terms of collaborative problem solving. In fact, collaboration is a core commitment to any sustainability initiative. And I just was curious if there's any thought about increasing sustainability within the NOC, because I think doing so in the 7th and 8th grade, and perhaps even some of the earlier grades, but especially 7th and 8th, maybe 6th, I guess, too, would seem to be important to me. Given, again, where we live, a lot of natural resources, the reality of issues of climate change, I guess one of the things I, would be pleased to see if there was some more effort, again, aspirational, why not look at sustainability more than we are?
Excuse me. So we actually, the NEF has actually supported us with some funds to support our 7th grade place-based education team to talk about just safety protocols outside, developing a long-term plan. Obviously, we have a teacher who Mr. Reynolds, who embodies what we want out of a place-based education, but unfortunately, John Reynolds is not going to be here forever. So we're working currently with an outside agency that the NF has supported to talk about a long-term plan to continue this, well after John, kind of leaves the field. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to see that, again, given the report and, being around all the natural resources that we see, potential collaborative relationships with, the Parker River wildlife. I just think there's some opportunities there, as well as Audubon. We don't want to forget about the Audubon.
Of course.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, and I just will follow up on a couple things. I think performing arts is I think one of our ultimate goals, and just so the school committee knows, and we're coming back out of the pandemic right now, but we are working with and doing site visits with some of the, for example, like Ipswich, who has a great performing arts program. Be talking to Beverly. I knew the principal there before. They have a great program. But I think it's really looking at.
What happened to him?
I don't know what happened to that guy. No, but I think for us, I think it's twofold. It's one, to increase the staffing, but I also think it's also taking a look at scheduling. So we're making classes available for students during the school day, to even students who may not think they have talent in performing arts or acting or drama. So we do have that going on. And then the other piece, I did have a meeting with local musicians, because that's part of the Ipswich plan that they do after school, where the local musicians do the private lessons right before the students go home. So that's something we're exploring too. So I do believe it's going to be a major priority for us, as we head into next year. Right now, the other piece, as Mayor Reardon said, is we are working with the NEF and that industrial arts, or the integrated arts at the high school. We're renovating. The plan is to renovate that whole downstairs and upgrade that, not only on the artistic side, traditional art side, but also the music side, which we also believe will inspire students, and at the same time increase the technology at the middle school. So I think it is on our radar, and I 100% believe the more opportunities we can give our students and find different niches that they have, the better for all our students. So I always say I should have went into theater instead of sports. I wouldn't be limping so much right now. So, all right. So Miss Rossi, come on up. You know how to use the open clicker, right?
Yeah, I do. So we also have a new improvement plan this year. I should also mention my school council members, sorry. Anna Nair is one of our teachers, Elisa Rabot, and Danielle Baptiste. So these are aligned with the Reimagine objectives that you've seen. They're 100% aligned. We've done a lot of work on assessments. We continue to do a lot of work around making students feel safe and welcome, trauma sensitivity, social emotional learning, which has become even more important post-COVID with what we're seeing in students across the board and across all age levels. I've been here for a little while now, so there are some of these accomplishments. I'm not going to go through all of them, but like some of them go back in time a little bit. That like the library renovation, the CAF redesign. We started special ed co-teaching at Mullen a number of years ago. Super excited right now, and Nick mentioned this as well, this robotics and multimedia communication programs that we're starting. We're gonna have students podcasting. They're gonna be using a green screen. Our students are already at 4th and 5th grade coding, using robotics, using the 3D printers. It's amazing stuff to see them starting at that age. And it's a lot due to the amazing staff we have, and Kristen Daigle, our STEM teacher, and Jackie Russo, our tech integrator, who also teaches tech to the Mullen students, are phenomenal. This is repetitive. We always want, if we have to cut anything, it's going to be materials and things like that, because it's always about students come first and adults working with students, the number of adults working with students. That's always the priority. We were able to add, the Mullen was one of the schools that did not have an interventionist for a while. When I got here, the Bresnahan had one, the Knock had one, Mullen didn't. So we were able to add one interventionist, I think it was like 2016, 17. So that was one person though for math and literacy for grades 4 and grade 5 students, fluctuating between 300 to 400 students at any given time. This year, because of the ESSER grant, we were able to hire a second academic interventionist. So one of our interventionists has been primarily working with 4th grade. The other one has been primarily working with 5th grade. Students that are, the way we look at and decide who needs intervention, we 100% look at the data. We get input from the teachers. We use our standardized assessments as well as common assessments. And we sit down and we talk about it. And then our interventionist will do a combination of pull out in small groups or going into the class and working with the teachers and having small groups in the classroom. I'm losing my voice a little, so I'm sorry. Now this is where I feel super excited, because this is a little out of the box thinking. You guys asked for aspirational budget. This is my aspirational position. And what made me, I've been thinking of this for a while, and part of what made me think of this is seeing the engagement, the problem solving, the collaboration, the creativity that our students have when they are in their STEM classes, when they're doing project-based learning in their regular classrooms, when they're in technology and using Ozobots, coding and doing a little Olympic challenge. There's a really incredible program at Stanford Design School. They use the design thinking process, which is a process that is used in many businesses and organizations. It aligns with our STEM program in terms of 4th grade does the scientific method, 5th grade does the engineering process. The design thinking process starts with an essential question, and then there are steps to it. And the first step, and I think this 100% aligns with what we want when we look at all the results for our portrait of a graduate, it starts with empathy. And so basically it's a 5-step process. It's empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And a little example is, a question would be, this is a 2nd grade example. How can we design and build a helpful and thoughtful backpack for a friend? So they have to think about that. The empathy piece is really thinking about understanding who the people are, the environment that they're in, and the role that they play within that environment. And I've just seen, there have just been so many creative things that have happened. If you follow us on Twitter, you would see our Chinese dragon parade with using the robots and kids working together in teams and designing them, and they're failing and they're problem solving and working together to fix it. I just think we're at such a place where everybody's ready for this. Mullen staff are phenomenal. They step out of the box. We want to reach every student. We definitely have students with profiles that, this type of position and the way they think would really reach those students, and also help them in terms of really teaching them the social skills as well, in terms of working together as a team. So it's aspirational, but it's also would be super exciting. And that's it. I'm always really fast, notoriously.
Hey, Mayor.
I have a question. I'm almost embarrassed I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but when Janie moved to the Bresnahan, did we have an interim go in place there?
At Mullen?
At Mullen. Because my question is, I was assuming tonight I was going to see an assistant principal position here.
Because last year, that's what you.
Oh, we're not losing it.
No. You're going to keep it in the budget, but you're planning on filling it.
So what we've done is, as you know, Deb O'Connor is still consulting, and then once Jamie, we made that shift, Deb O'Connor has been assisting with Tara in picking up the teacher evaluations. And Tara said, with that support, and she's a superhero, she's like, I'm good to go. So.
I was heartbroken, I'm not gonna lie, but also super excited.
No, I was just curious.
Sean, Mayor, we cannot take that away, okay?
No, I was going to ask if you were okay, like if you needed.
Yes, thank you, I appreciate that. And you know what, I do have to say, I just cannot say enough about my staff. My teachers and my instructional assistants are teachers. So they help in a huge way.
You have good subs
Huge.
there at that school too. So that's
We actually have a phenomenal sub that brings a therapeutic dog. I mean, what else could you ask for? It's awesome.
Mr. Cole?
Yeah, this is simply, I just want to compliment your leadership and support of trauma-sensitive schools and, having, trauma-informed staff. I think it's really important at this time. And how is that going? Is any expanding of that happening?
Yeah. When we had our professional development day, I was one of the people that did some sessions. Middle school teachers, high school teachers, elementary teachers, they're asking for more of it. So I'm working with Lisa Marie to develop more of it and get more of that programming in.
So you've been able to sustain it. You've been able to, that's good.
It's needed
That's
more
great.
than ever. I feel I've always felt strongly and passionately about it. And I think all of our administration is 100% on board with continuing to do that work.
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for that, Steve. I appreciate it.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes, and part of that PD, Mr. Cole, other than my workshop, Ms. Rossi's workshop was well received, so. No. But this is, once again, I think utilizing expertise within the district, and Lisa Marie and Principal Rossi, we're really gonna, I think, develop going into next year a comprehensive professional development plan for the teachers. But of all of the workshops that we provided, we got a lot of great feedback on the trauma sensitive that Ms. Rossi ran. So, all right. And Ms. Sokolowski is here, and she's been, as you know, beyond the couple asks that she's going to provide, but reaching out about performing arts and music. We've also, she's going to assist us in working on the plan of trying to help us coordinate having those professionals come in and develop those lessons. So she's definitely one that's not going to let us drop the ball on enhancing performing arts. So, all right, Ms. Sokolowski, come on up.
Great, thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank my school council. Our parent reps are Shannon Cormier, Heather Eigen, Colin Carpenter, and Kirsten Rowe. Our faculty members are John Gangemi, who's here tonight, Allie Burns, Maddie Stanton, Sam McGuire, Julie Malkow, and Assistant Principal Mike Monroe. So they have assisted in developing and working on the school improvement plan and reviewing the budget process, and just their perspective is very valuable, so I'm grateful for them. Okay. So the Bresnahan student learning goal is for teachers to utilize student data to guide instruction and measure growth. Assessment is used to guide instruction, curriculum, engage students in inquiry, and focus on the process of learning. So if you were to sit in on any of our grade level meetings, you would hear teachers regularly looking at data, looking at assessments, planning. We're starting to do some professional development on small group instruction, and just looking at the students we have, where they are, and how we can move them forward. Our professional learning goal is to foster a safe, positive, healthy, and inclusive learning environment that enables students, staff, and parents to develop positive relationships with one another, for students to regulate their emotions and behaviors when they're in school, maintain physical and psychological health and well-being. We'll ensure that services are provided to promote behavioral health, social and emotional learning, bullying prevention, trauma sensitivity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. As Nick mentioned in the NOC presentation, there's so much that we can be proud of that our schools across the board have accomplished during the pandemic. Our teachers delivered remote learning, hybrid learning, in-person learning with masks, while still moving the school forward. In terms of teaching and learning, this year alone, the Bresnahan staff has been rolling out the MyView Literacy and Foundations program, which are programs that Lisa Marie mentioned earlier. This is the first full rollout where teachers are teaching these programs with fidelity, and they're learning the program, they're developing how they're teaching it, they're mapping the curriculum as they go, and they're doing an amazing job. We're already seeing huge gains with students with their foundations program, and the teachers are really enjoying it and doing an incredible job. So I'm very proud of that. We are continuing to develop our special ed program, be creative with how we place students, how we use our talented special ed staff, and we'll touch upon that in the next few slides. We are proud to bring tuition-free kindergarten next year, which will hopefully over the next few years be a huge benefit to the community, and have students who might not have been able to get kindergarten with a cost be able to come in free. It's just more accessible to everyone. And we are looking forward to continuing the use of PBIS in the school. There's a foundation there, and the staff is committed to continuing to amp up our use of PBIS and making it richer as we go into the next school year. Like the other schools, our biggest expense is our talented staff, and we really prioritize the teachers that we have, and if any cuts do need to be made, we'll pull from the other areas rather than cut the staff, because they are extremely valuable and we couldn't deliver the programs we have without them. The positions that are in my aspirational budget are positions that Nancy Koch has already reviewed, so they're technically under the special ed umbrella, but they are and will be a very important part of the Bresnahan School, so I just wanted to highlight them here during my part of the presentation. I'm asking for a language-based special ed teacher. Language-based is a certain cognitive profile for students who have a coding and decoding profile in terms of reading and comprehension. Sometimes students with this specific profile end up going to Landmark, so having this program start at the Bres, it already exists at the Mullen and a little bit at the Knock, having that go elementary through middle school will help keep students in district and help them be successful. Our strategies-based instruction teacher is another special ed teacher, and this is a different cognitive profile than language-based, but it's for students who might need assistance with executive function, metacognition, and we would group students based on their IEP needs to be in that teacher's class. We're also asking for a full-day kindergarten special ed co-teacher. We have a number of students coming up from PreK that we think could benefit from being in a co-taught class. So looking at the current profiles of students, we feel that this would be beneficial to the incoming kindergarten class. And then to support these special ed initiatives, we're asking for 3 instructional assistants to support our programs. So the total cost is $100,040, and we do have some retirements in the building, so that number is based on the number of teachers retiring, what the estimated cost is with these new positions. Another aspirational budget item would be, with the new addition of full-day free pre-K, we're not sure what our numbers will be for enrollment. Right now, enrollment is still going on. We have signups every single day. So we're just keeping an eye on that, seeing if we'll need to add an additional staff member to meet the needs of the new kindergarten class. Okay, any questions about the Bresnahan?
Great. Questions?
Can you just remind us, I'm sorry, it's not a question.
Go ahead.
Can you just remind us when we will know, like, a more definite answer on, I mean, is that the beginning of June where, like, the kindergarten screening's happening that we'll have a better idea, or
Yeah,
is it earlier than that?
Yeah, I think we're, and this being in my 4th year, I always want to put that out there. But right now, looking at our kindergarten numbers, I think we're pretty good for not adding additional staff. But
yeah.
I know a couple years we had some numbers, and then we were meeting, at the end of June because more people came in. But Lisa Marie Ippolito, working with Principal Sokolowski, really we have the signups, but also have anticipated other numbers of the charter school students and possibly the IC students coming in. So we're pretty comfortable right now, but I just wanted to keep that, on the radar just in case as, if we do get an influx. And just talking about Ukraine, like, who knows what type of impact that could have down the road, so, just something that would.
Thank you.
Great job, thank you.
Okay, so this summary of our investments, so we kind of just put it out there for everybody to see. That's kind of what we're looking at for our aspirational investments. And as I said, is we're going to go back when we start looking at the numbers and the increase in the percentages. We know within the next 4 weeks that that's probably going to change and hopefully change in our favor of reduced costs. So the aspirational summary, going back, as we were saying, this was our level service, was a 3.8 and a 1.3. As we broke this down, here is the aspirational. For the city contribution would be a 6.8, and the overall budget is at a 3.9 at this time. So our next steps, so step one, we've already presented the foundational budget presentation, and as we said, what we have going on right now, just taking that and moving it into next year. Step two was tonight, which is the aspirational investments of all of our budget holders. Step three, and this is what we really pride ourselves in, analyze our staffing patterns, reallocating funds, and examining our operational budgets. We evaluate the funding sources. So these are the grants, and as we know, we do have some other grants, the competitive grants out there, and we're waiting, which will also help defray some of our costs. We know we have the ESSER 3, and as we like to do is, we know that you don't want to front load ESSER 3 with a lot of staffing and personnel, because you know eventually that grant's going away. We're looking at our revolving accounts, our circuit breaker, and our choice. So we incorporate, remember that we're looking at our contractual obligations. We know just with the step and columns, we're at $360,000 increase, so that was in the foundational budget. That's at zero moving in just into next year. But this is the next few weeks, I think we'll be closer to understanding what the projected increases will be with the negotiated salaries in the union. Ongoing budget updates to school committee through March through April. And we know we have the public hearing on April 6th.
That's the 4th.
Oh, April
Monday,
4th?
April 4th.
It's good. I think I need to be here for that, so thank you. So April 4th, I apologize. I think it was April 6th last year, so I don't know. All right. You think so? I don't know. Yeah. So we'll be providing the updates throughout to school committee, and then present the final budget presentation to the school committee on April 26th. And then I think it goes on to city councils at May 15th or so.
Yeah, we would vote probably at that meeting on the
Correct.
budget, and then it gets sent to the mayor's office.
The mayor's office for the city's overall budget.
Yeah, forward to city council.
So that's the work, and it's ongoing work, but as we said, it's really the hard work will be to do exactly what we can to maximize our internal resources, and something that we've done for 4 years, and I think we do a nice job at that. So, and I think that's the last slide. There you go.
I've got a question for Sean, I guess. Hey, Mayor Reardon. Is there any word on like Chapter 70 changes or anything state funding wise?
Chapter 90 they're talking about, but I don't even think that's going to take place this year. We could get a bump in Chapter 90 next year. But yeah, no, nothing around Chapter 70.
Yes.
Just a comment. We've been doing this a long time, and this presentation of the aspirational budget was very consistent, very clear, very well organized, and I'm really it's been very, very helpful to me as I consider it. So they've done a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a great team. They put a lot of effort. We continue to work together, and we'll continue to move forward with the process for everybody. So, our ultimate goal is by the 27th, our school committee will be, in the general public, will be well informed on the aspirations and the numbers and all of that.
Okay, anything else? Great. Do we have any public comment this evening? Yes? Great, I just need to read a statement first, and we'll get you right up here, okay? The school committee invites members of the public to offer public comment, a welcome and important part of our work. Speakers are allowed up to 2 minutes for comments. Comments longer than 2 minutes may be submitted to the district office in writing for inclusion in the minutes of the meeting. We expect and encourage civility. Any remarks that are defamatory or abusive are always considered out of order, and the chairperson may terminate an individual's privilege of address on that basis. We ask all speakers to respect the following guidelines. Speakers may offer objective criticism of and/or ideas for school operations and programs on the agenda. Please refrain from complaints about specific school personnel or members of the school community. Finally, we request that no student names or any identifying information be offered, as that would violate the student's right to privacy. Thank you. All right, Mr. Orlando, step right up to the mic. Yes.
Ralph Orlando, 4 William Hall Drive. I didn't come to make this first comment, but having attended 10 consecutive budget meetings up till and last about 5 years ago, this was in fact very complimentary. It was concise. There were few numbers. You could easily understand it. And some of the members that have been here for a while know that I don't offer a lot of comments of positive nature unless they're duly deserved. I did come to make a plea again to some of the folks who were here towards the end of the term of the last school committee. If you wish to engage the public, I really would encourage you to relook at how you organize your public comment. By that I mean in the past, and I think you should have a discussion of this. I'd like to see it as an agenda item. Just a suggestion, not a criticism. Public comment at the onset of the meeting so that people can make some comments in general, maybe for you to consider during that meeting, as well as a period of public comment in the middle of the meeting so that people who are engaged, if you choose to become engaged, will have an opportunity to comment on some of the things you've said during the course of that meeting. In years past, the engaged people were a wide variety of folks. They were parents. There were 4 or 5 parents who regularly attended the meetings along with me. There were ex-parents, and there were citizens, senior citizens, who had no vested interest in schools other than what they offered the youth of America. So if I could ask you to take a look at that, perhaps you looked at it during your retreat. Some of you members the last time I was here thought it was worthy of being rediscussed. I think you would have an opportunity to fully engage people in the community in school committee meetings on a regular basis. For public comments, brevity is important, but for these types of meetings, brevity shouldn't be a goal to be aspiring to. Thank you.
Nailed it. That was exactly 2 minutes. Thank you.
And again, I might add, sometimes you folks even suspended the 2-minute rule and it became a public dialogue, which I think is beneficial to everyone. These guys here who know me and I know them. That's what was done in the past.
Just for everyone's information, on Monday, April 4th, with our public hearing, we will have an overview of the presentation followed by a Q&A for public. All right? Can I get, oh, go ahead.
Before, I just have a point I want to make. Now, it may seem trivial, but I'm willing to bet that there is not a single school committee in the entire country where the majority of members are left-handed. And those of us who are left, do you know statistically, left-handed people represent 10% of the community? And we have a majority left-handed school committee.
All right.
Interesting.
I'm an old lefty.
So we're not doing new business this evening because we're meeting again in 4 days. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Is there any more public comment?
I didn't see any other hands.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.